Go Google it.
No, you Google it because obviously your facts are very misconceptive. You have very horrible facts. You come to me with you come with me to lie, so I don't know about the belief
in New York where he bought
property. I was look it up for myself.
That's what his grandfather and his father was KKK members.
Okay.
So read the history.
KKK members, you mean?
Yes.
Not KK members.
They was Ku Klux Klansmen. KKK.
Klansmen, okay.
Who's against your color?
Okay.
Against your skin? Against your people, your ancestors?
I think the Democratic Party founded the KKK, by the way. Just saying.
Let me tell you, I'm for the people. It's not because of Democrat or Republican. I'm for the people.
Okay, that's good.
The people are united, will never be defeated. Okay. And that's what I believe in.
And
Donald Trump trying to divide the country.
He's not trying to divide us.
Yes, he is.
He's trying to unite us. Just because his policies are not like yours doesn't mean he's not trying to.
What you mean qualities?
I said policies.
Policies?
Yes, you're expanding at me.
We're a person tell Mexicans he gonna build a wall to send them back to their country.
Because we have so much illegal immigration. That's why.
Look at his wife. How do you think she got here?
She's legal.
She's not legal.
Yeah,
She's from Europe.
There's a way to legally immigrate.
Exactly. Do you not know that? You don't know that. Oh my God, this is not
my grandparents.
Yeah, because you don't know anything. You need to go learn how to spell your first name, go to college, get a high school education, and then you come back and talk to me. Thank you.
Do you know his own party is turning against him?
Go get a high school education.
Because of the racism he's teaching.
Go get a high school.
There are plans here in Texas to put through a high-speed bullet train going from Houston to Dallas. Now, that may sound like a good thing, and it could be a good thing, except that it's turning into the people who are in between the two cities, people in the rural areas, are literally being railroaded out of their private property rights. And without private property rights, you are nothing but a slave. This is another case of eminent domain, and we've seen through Supreme Court decisions, with the Kello decision, others, where increasingly eminent domain is being used not necessarily for public use, but for the private use of a corporation. And then we see with the Keystone Pipeline and now with this Japanese bullet train that is going to be built in Texas that they're working on, we're seeing that being handed over to a multinational corporation. Now, there's also been a bait and switch as we've seen this project develop here in Texas. We're going to talk to one of the county judges in one of the counties affected by this. And of course, a county judge in Texas is really the chief administrator. He's kind of like a mayor of a city. The county judge has that kind of a position in the counties here in Texas. We're talking to Judge Trey Duhan of Waller County, and he's going to outline to us what the problems are with this, because this is a national issue. And it is an issue that this country was built upon. This is the issue of whether or not you will be allowed to own and enjoy the rights to your property, or whether somebody who has better political connections is going to be able to take that from you at their will. Joining us now is Judge Trey Duhan. Judge, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, David, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Now, let's give people an idea of how this has come about, because a few years ago, the people in these counties, when it was sold to them originally, they said, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Maybe this would be something that would be helpful. But at that time, they said it would be going over existing right-of-ways that were already being used by road beds, by power lines, and that sort of thing. But then they changed that.
That's right. I mean, when this first came about several years ago, because we've been engaged now in this fight now for going on, I think, 4 years. That was one of the things that a lot of folks felt pretty strong about, that if you're going to build something of this nature, you should build it along existing infrastructure rather than going out to an area that has a certain way of life and just taking land and condemning it and turning it into something that it's not. Obviously, with the bullet train, it comes along with a lot of other things that is not consistent with some of the things that we have here in Waller County. Obviously, Waller County we've always been an agricultural county. We have a very strong rural and agricultural heritage. And we do have a lot of growth going on in Waller County, being that we're adjacent to Houston. But the areas that they're trying to run this train through, it would just create a dead zone. Instead of being prime residential development or mixed retail or other uses, any land adjacent to this project is going to, the highest and best use might be, grazing or agricultural. And that's a problem for a lot of folks in Waller County.
And of course, what it is also is a case of the rights of the few being taken by the multitude, and the way in which they're doing this. You have a lot of concerns about the process that they're going through with eminent domain and the fact that they're trying to take this property when they haven't even decided on the exact route yet. They're going to take property for a couple of different routes, and routes that they won't even use.
Yeah, that's right. And I tell you, it is disconcerting for a number of reasons. Obviously, you've got the two elephants in the room with Houston and Dallas that think that this would be the greatest thing, since white bread, and they're pushing very hard for this project. And the problem is that we have a number of issues with the project. I mean, number one, none of us really believe that this project is going to cash flow. It's being sold. The taxpayers are being told that this will be built with private money. But the fact of the matter is nobody can actually tell us if it's going to be operated that way or if the state of Texas will eventually have to subsidize this, because there's really no high-speed rail lines in the world that aren't publicly subsidized to some extent.
Yes.
It's not a mass transit solution, not at the ticket prices they propose. You're not going to get the ridership that you need when you can travel between Dallas and Houston on a $50 tank of gas. Why would a family of four pay over $1,000 for that same trip? So we have a number of issues, but what has really come to a head that is incredibly troubling is the actions of the rail company, Texas Central Railway, in filing these recent petitions with the Surface Transportation Board, where they are in effect asking to be exempted from certain regulations and requirements so that they can have the power of condemnation prior to the route being finalized and prior to the environmental analysis being completed, which, by the way, we have a major problem with the way they've done the environmental analysis, because we don't think what they're doing is in accordance with NEPA. But, that's a major side note. But, to think that and to go so far as to even admit that you may take property that you may not eventually use in the final route, I think that's tyranny, to be honest with you. I can't imagine. I mean, there has to be a public necessity.
Yes.
That's a basic tenet when you're going to exercise eminent domain.
Yes.
And if you're taking land that's not going to be used in the final route, where's the public necessity in that?
Well, I have a problem with the fact that it's a private company that's going to take it. I mean, you and I both don't believe that this is truly going to be a private company. What they will do is they will privatize their profits. But if they lose money, as we always see with these massive crony capitalist projects, if they lose money, that's going to be put on the public, on the taxpayer. But at the same time, if it is a private corporation that's running this thing through, I don't even believe that they ought to be able to take it for the eminent domain. But it's gotten beyond that. As we see, first the private corporations take that, and then we have a multinational corporation, like the case of Keystone Pipeline, comes in and says, well, we're going to take your property. Now we go to the extent they say, well, we've got a couple of different routes that we want to do here, so we're just going to take all of this land, even though we may not use some of it. And then they're taking shortcuts in terms of the eminent domain process, aren't they?
There's no doubt about it that they're taking shortcuts. And I'll give you just a few examples that I think, kind of outline the shortcuts they're taking. They, back in April, on April 19th is when they filed these petitions with the Surface Transportation Board to be exempted from certain regulations and to go forward and have that condemnation authority. They did so at that time with no notice to landowners, cities, or counties that were affected. And then they didn't come out until, I think it was on May 4th. That was 15 days after they filed it, but only 5 days before the deadline for comments on their petition is when TCR publicly announced that they had filed these petitions, some 2 to 3 earlier. And it's like, if it's an open and transparent process, which TCR says that they are doing, why doing this in the middle of the night without any heads up or notice to anybody? Now, thankfully, we are organized. We are not a bunch of backwoods hicks. We know what we're doing. We engaged quickly and filed replies and responses to these petitions, along with comments from thousands of individuals that own property between Houston and Dallas. And the point you made earlier, and let me say this is an important issue for everyone. Everyone that owns property, everybody that pays taxes, whether this project is going to come close to you or not, because you're right. They will absolutely, when this thing fails, and I do believe it's not going to cash flow. In fact, one of our state representatives, Cecil Bell, very interesting.
Well, that's it for our news tonight. We hope that you have a wonderful 4th of July as you celebrate your freedom and your independence. And we ask you to consider supporting us so that we can continue to give you free and independent news as an independent news agency. One of the ways that you can do that is to become a subscriber to Prison Planet TV. Your subscription helps to support us financially, and as a subscriber, you will get the news every night as it happens, as well as access to all of Alex Jones's documentaries there on the Prison Planet TV website. Have a great 4th of July. Keep fighting for your liberty, and join us tomorrow night, 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, for the INFOWARS Nightly News.